Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the IC, the Young Masters course on innovation. I am Dr. Nilesh Kumar, and I welcome Dr. Swati Kalki ma'am, who is head of OU Institute of Eye Cancer at Ali Prasad Eye Institute, Hyderabad. Dr. Prakhat Rupsar, who is consultant cornea clinic and refractive surgery at Acura Vision Clinics in Meerut. Dr. John Devi Sakara, who is going to join us shortly. He is a glaucoma, cataract and refractive surgeon at West End Eye Hospital and Chaitanya Eye Hospital, Kochi, Kerala. And my mentor, Dr. Ashish Sharma sir, who is heading medical retina in Lotus Eye Hospital and innovator par excellence. So let us move on with the first presentation, that is finding a germinal idea. How do you find what you want to do? So I would like to thank AIOC Scientific Committee for providing this opportunity, and I am innovator of DixPro, that is the smartphone gonio imaging device, and I want to share how the idea came to me and how anybody who wants to do can some kind of filter their idea and see which way they want to go. So these are my financial disclosures. So DixPro, I'll just give a brief introduction, is one of its kind frugal commercial smartphone-based gonio imaging device in the process of patent application, which has been compatible with 2, 3 and 4 mirror gonio lens and smartphone with single or multi-camera setup. This is the device being set up for use. Place the gonio lens in the adapter, which by design itself aligns centrally with the optics of smartphone holding segment. Where the smartphone, it can be Android or iPhone, is snap fit. The normal camera app is open, or the MI Redcam app can be used for clicking the image. The lens with the holder is applied in a normal fashion in a topical anesthesia, and the patient is asked to look straight. The smartphone segments aligns beautifully with the lens adapter, and you just click using the camera flash. So these are few sample images we have taken. So how did this happen? How does anything happen? So the two most common questions asked to any innovator: how did you get the idea, and how did you decide to take it forward? I will try to answer these two questions in today's presentation based on my learnings and my interactions with much better innovators like present here. Everyone has got ideas. When presented with a problem, any logical brain will throw a solution. So anyone in the audience who wants to innovate, focus on finding a problem. Find a problem that is very personal to you, that you really want to be solved for yourself, and then let your brain do the magic. So my problem was convincing the patient to have that they have closed angle and they require a prophylactic yard laser PL. Even after counseling them for 15 to 20 minutes, they rarely agreed for such a simple procedure, all because they couldn't understand what this junior doctor is going to tell. When I just walked in for a normal refraction, he is telling me that you have got this problem, you can go blind if you don't get the laser done. So did I ever set out to make a device to solve a problem? No. I just wanted some idea to solve this problem. So what did my brain throw up? What is a gonio mirror? Is it not a mirror? Are we not taking mirror selfies with our phone? Can't you do the same by going really close to the gonio lens? This idea came to me in gym. So just keep listening to yourself. But it is not that I just got the idea in the evening and the next day Dix was born. It took me 8 to 10 days just to gather courage to attempt the first image. So how was the journey forward? So Ikigai is a concept that I believe in. It's a Japanese philosophy meaning the reason of being. It asks you to answer only 4 questions about anything that you do, and if you answer those truthfully, you will have the clarity to do or not to do. The questions are: do you love doing it? Are you good at it? Does the world need it? And will anyone pay for you to do it? So the first question first: do you love the idea you have got? If you don't, be ruthless and discard it. Sole reason that this is going to take a lot of your time, lot of your cognition and a lot of your attention. It took 12 types of macro lens setup that we tried over first 6 months to get from the first image I got on the left side to the clear quality image in the middle. Make sure that you love your idea so that your journey becomes your passion. The next question to be answered is: are you good enough to implement your idea? This decides the route you are going to take to develop your idea. If you can do it, then take the do-it-yourself route. That will give you complete freedom to keep Ashish sir even before I started my journey because it helped me achieve what I am today so fast. Getting a right mentor will not only help you to do what you need to do, they will also prevent you from doing the mistakes they have done. So you get to your goal very fast. If you are not going to get a mentor, then someone from the industry can help you, but make sure that if you are going to take that route, you have to protect your idea, and I think Dr. Prakash sir will elaborate more on this. So the third question to be answered is, does the world need your innovation? In simple terms, is your problem a problem for many, and no viable solution is available for it? For me, gonioscopy is not performed in majority of patients walking in, and there are no recent advances in gonio imaging which is frugal and can be easily utilized for patient education that convinced me to develop our innovation further and propagate it. So we published our technique in Journal of Glaucoma, and the quality till then was good enough to make it to the cover art. The last question really decides where your innovation is going to be commercial or not. A simple question, will someone pay for it? Once we had published the article in Journal of Glaucoma, we got so many queries that is it a device? How can we buy it? How can we try it? That answered the question for us. But the commercialization is a costly process. Developing even a simple attachment may cost you 5 to 6 lakh, and then the economics needs to be understood before proceeding. In my opinion, if your research and your innovation should be self-sustainable, it should pay for itself. If you are not getting money from it, it should not suck the money out of you. But have we done all we could have done with the device? Now that this is commercial and has won multiple innovation awards and is present internationally? Not at all. The beauty of innovation is that it keeps evolving. So the next frontier to achieve is a reflection-free image. We are experimenting with various kind of polarized lights, filters, and external flashes to provide a reflection-free 360-degree images of the angle, and which hopefully will be available soon. This all is possible because I answered the first question very truthfully, that I love my idea. I absolutely love my idea. So keep loving your idea, keep innovating, keep translating, keep digging. Thank you so much for your audience, and I would now invite Ashish sir for his talk on patents.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Nilesh, for having me here. And it's great to meet our old friend Swati and means everybody after a long time. So, Nilesh has been very bright. We spent quality time since the last 2 years under the banner of MI Redcam, and he was bright, and he did everything. I was just a slight push so that we could bring what, and I could help him. Whatever I have done few mistakes. The problem is I'm not a patent attorney, I'm not a patent expert guy, I am not a great marketing guy, but probably, the journey that we have gone through, I can share some of the tips from the journey, both. So, how do I advance you ask? But how do I advance this? Okay, I got it, thank you. So these are my financial disclosures. So we have proprietary rights in AIOC and all the products, and apart from that, the BFI and which soon to be launched. And we have been working on these various innovations and keep publishing them, because that's very important if you really want to go further and you want to be stand apart. So lesson learned from the patent journey, I would say, the lesson number one is do not publish anything. If you want your idea to be patented, do not publish before, because you cannot file a patent if you publish even images or prototype images or whatever. So that's what we did. We had our idea of MI Redcam in 2015, but we published in 2016 first paper of MI Redcam after filing the patent. So that's what we should remember. Second is Lesson number 2, do not file on your own if this is your first innovation. Probably, once you have a little bit of idea or probably you are experienced, then probably you can do this. But best idea would be to hire a patent lawyer. I would give you an example. For example, you have innovated a chair, left side chair. The way you would write, I have innovated one, kind of a sitting platform which has 4 legs and a base on the back. That's how you're going to write. But that is not going to protect you. How somebody can infringe it? Somebody can make a chair on which you can sit, but it might have 3 legs. That would infringe your patent immediately. So a lawyer would define it like, I'm making a platform which is above 18 inches or whatever, and it can rest on a single leg or maybe on multiple legs. So you are protected. Nobody can make single leg, double leg, 3 legs or 4 legs. So that's where the difference comes when you file on your own and when a patent attorney who's experienced, he files patent for you. So try to take help from them. Then next is, because it's a long journey, never wait for the final product, because then it might not work out. So as soon as you have your working prototype ready, then probably just go ahead and file it. And how would you file it? File an Indian patent, because any patent, if you file across the globe, that has a value. Because patents are territorial. You cannot get a blanket patent for everything everywhere. It never happens. File an Indian patent which is cheap. It doesn't cost you much. And apart from that, you can file a patent corporation treaty, PCT filing. What PCT filing does is, it does not give you a patent immediately, but it gives you a protection of your idea for at least next 36 months. So you file a PCT, it gives you, it's kind of a protection in multi countries just for your idea for next 36 months, and then you find out whether, you have potential for this idea to take forward commercially, because if you take it internationally, each country would cost you a lot. So just make sure that, you are not overspending your money. Any innovation should make you rich. You should not become poor just because it's your passion. Patent should make you rich over the time. Because as simple as we are normal human beings, normal clinicians, patent infringements are common. You can imagine patent infringements are common between Apple and Samsung, who we are. We cannot fight. Only Apple and Samsung can fight, and to fight patent is very difficult. It's a costly journey. Now you would say, okay, patent, I should not be serious, but then why should I have patent? It's important. Why is it important? For example, over the time, if you need some grants, if you need some, to present it some respectable platform, then this gives a value to your innovation, for sure. So do it. Now next I would come to our marketing journey, because now we have presence in 50 countries as of now. So although I would not say in the news 50 countries is a lot, but it's not something that we have number of products in 50 countries. Means even if one product is in one country, I count it. So lesson number 1, utilize social media well. Even right from when you start your prototypes and when you want to create a buzz through social media, because as a solo entrepreneur or solo innovator, you can do that very easily because of these platforms. LinkedIn has a scientific value, so probably, a lot of investors are sitting on LinkedIn. So probably somebody would see you on LinkedIn. That's a great platform for any kind of science if you want to. And then Google Ads. They are slightly costly but has good reach. Email campaigns, sometimes you can utilize GMAS. Nilesh might, personally you can talk to him because he does that. But otherwise there are companies who can do email campaigns for you. This is where we have failed till now. We have not had any dealers across the globe. It's just, we go scientific platform, we talk. So probably, this this is kind of, this elevates, it takes it to even more people. So probably you should have those dealers, but we have failed in that till now. Better to hire a dedicated e-marketing team if you can afford it, probably, because that costs maybe 20, 30,000 a month. So probably if you think that you have a good revenue coming in, probably try for 2-3 months and then go ahead. Be present everywhere. It doesn't matter whether ophthalmologists, they are, looking for a product on Amazon or Flipkart or not, but be present everywhere. At least it gives you somewhere visibility to somebody. So and it does not cost you anything. International presence, very, very important. People will copy you. Definitely people will copy you. That is not going to stop. But how you take forward, how you push your product, that matters. And being into ophthalmology is a great blessing because you can be present on scientific platform without any cost. So that's what we did with AIOC. We were in American Academy. We were in World Ophthalmology. We were in the instruction courses in American Academy. We were interviewed by twice or thrice by international committees. We were on the cover page of OSLI. So have this presence, because then you take a lead. You are cited everywhere. So even if somebody wants to copy, you are ahead. Take user feedback and solutions, add-on products. For example, when we launched, that was the handheld device, people told out of 80 people who bought in 3 months, they said, we are not stable. It shakes. Then we brought a safety lamp mount, which did wonders. Then the learning curve went zero, and people started using the technicians to do it. Then a lot of people have started using ROP. They wanted 28D and 40D to be used. Then we brought those rings and then made it compatible with 28 and 40D. Regular marketing strategies. I'm marketing right now here. Anybody who wants this device, 20% off. Straight away. Come talk to us. 20% off right here. So market it. So that's where I will stop, and I would like to thank all the people across the globe. I think some of them are missing here, who have been really, really helpful in our journey of AIOC. And thank you so very much for being present at early morning.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a very nice talk, and we will take all the audience. We will take all the audience question and panel discussion in the end of the session. So moving on to the next talk, we always think that innovation means a product, but innovations can also happen in surgery. And when you innovate in a surgical step, that is a signature that you are doing on the patient eye that is going to remain there forever. So I welcome Dr. Swati Kalki ma'am, who is heading the Cancer Institute at LVPI to deliver her talk on innovations in surgical technique, your signature art.
A very good morning to one and all who have joined us early this morning. And I also would like to thank Nilesh for planning this session. And as Ashish mentioned, it's very nice to meet friends after a long time. And it's nice to hear the talks and learn a lot from each of them as well. Thank you for that. So I'll begin my talk. So the topic that Nilesh thought would be appropriate for me to speak on is on innovations in surgical technique, signature art. I'll be talking about the surgical step that I used in one of my surgeries, which probably is being used in other places as well. And that is the concomitant simple limbal epithelial transplantation following excisional biopsy of ocular surface squamous neoplasia. I do not have any financial disclosures to make, and I will be using the full face photographs, and appropriate consent has been obtained for the same. Now the journey started with these two cases. So these two cases they presented about in 2013 and 14. Around that time, they had ocular surface squamous neoplasia, as you can see, and these patients had already undergone multiple forms of topical treatment, and nothing was working for them. So we had no other choice but to excise the lesion. So we went ahead and excised the lesion, and this was the result after surgery. As we can see, if we are talking from the tumor point, yes, the tumor has nicely regressed, but if we are talking from the vision perspective, we haven't been able to give a good result to the patient, because in the first picture, the left picture, I think to your right, where the patient has total limbal stem cell deficiency, and the bottom picture, the patient where he has partial limbal stem cell deficiency. And by then, at LVPI, SLET had become increasingly popular for various corneal techniques, and so we thought, why not use it? And we did SLET for these patients. Simple limbal epithelial transplantation was done for these patients. But what was the result of that when we did the secondary SLET is that it showed actually no improvement. They were back to square one, where the patients again went back and developed the total limbal stem cell deficiency and the partial limbal stem cell deficiency respectively in the eyes. So the question that we had to answer is, why has this occurred? Why has secondary SLET not helped in these patients? Now this is because when we excise the ocular surface squamous neoplasia, it causes surgery-induced limbal stem cell loss, which results in total or partial limbal stem cell deficiency. So how do we, what is the solution for this? The solution is obviously that we have to put back the limbal stem cells. So there are two ways that we can do. One is the secondary SLET, which we tried in these patients, and you could see that it failed. So we thought, how about if we do this step at the time of excision of the lesion and do primary SLET, whether it is going to help? So that was the question that we wanted to answer. So when we look at the surgical procedure of OSSM, we excise the lesion, take about 4 millimeters margin from the lesion. On the corneal side, we take 2 millimeters margin, and we completely excise the lesion. So which means that there is going to be loss of conjunctiva, tenons, corneal epithelium, and loss of limbal stem cells. So primarily, we are replacing the first part, that is the conjunctiva, tenons, corneal epithelium, with the amniotic membrane graft and advancing the tenons. But till then, we were not replacing the lost limbal stem cells. So we thought of replacing it by doing the primary SLET. So then the question was, we have variety of ways that OSSM can present. So which are the cases where this primary SLET is required? So to answer this, we went back and looked at the retrospective data. We reviewed all the photographs of the patients who have undergone excision biopsy. And we noted that when they had small lesions, less than 6 clock hours, when we excise, they do fantastic. They do not develop any limbal stem cell deficiency. So the question that we first answered was, which are the patients which actually require a modification of the surgical procedure? And we got the answer by this analysis, where we saw that whenever the excision involves more than 6 clock hours of limbal stem cells, 100% of the cases develop some form of limbal stem cell deficiency. So that's when we thought, okay, let us introduce this procedure in these patients where they require extensive dissection of the limbal stem cells. So the procedure, as you can, the procedure as you can see in this video, so the tumor is excised routinely with 4 millimeters margin on the conjunctival side and 2 millimeters margin on the corneal side. We do cryo, then replace with AMG, take the limbal stem cells either from the same eye or opposite eye, depending upon how many clock hours of limbal stem cells are present. And then over the amniotic membrane graft, we cut the small bits of the tissue that we acquire and we place it, secure these particles with the glue and place a bandage contact lens. And this bandage contact lens is removed after a week, and the patient is put on routine medications of topical antibiotic steroids. So this is 1 week post-op picture of a patient who has undergone excision biopsy with SLEC. As you can see, the tumor is completely gone. There is an AMG with the SLEC particles that are present. Now we follow up these patients on OCT. We can see that, so this is day 1 where we can see the SLEC particles. Then by day 5, the epithelium has already slowly started growing. By day 8, the epithelium is nicely growing over the surface, and by 3 months, these SLEC particles completely disappear, and the cornea, it maintains its integrity without any limbal stem cell deficiency. So these are some of the examples where these are large lesions that we excised, and you can see the postoperative result where the patients did extremely well without any sign of limbal stem cell deficiency postoperatively. So we published our first series in American Journal of Ophthalmology where we published on 7 cases showing that it works really well. So to conclude, small modifications in surgical procedures like this where we did primary SLEC after excision of ocular surface tumor involving more than 6 clock hours of limbus minimizes and in most of the cases prevents the signs of limbal stem cell deficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful talk. And this talk was mainly to emphasize that the innovation is not only about tech stuff and in making a device or going into the technology. It can be as simple as doing something innovative in surgery and doing anything in OPD procedure. So now moving on to the most important thing, the most feared thing in innovation, that is working with industry. Dr. Pathatrup, sir, who is now heading his own practice, was a senior resident in AIMS when he developed the negative dysphotopsia ring, which encounters the negative dysphotopsia, and he developed it with an industry. So now we will find out what is the formula for the blockbuster.
So, good morning everyone, and it's nice to see so many people in the morning session. I'll be speaking about the formula for a blockbuster working with the industry. There is no financial disclosure per se on this presentation, but the MD ring which is discussed in this presentation has an IPR pertaining to it which is under review. So I've divided this talk into 2 parts. First is the formula for a blockbuster, which is the most important part, and then is working with the industry. So we'll talk about the worth of your idea, the protection of that idea, building value of your idea, and then you yourself determining what value your idea or your product holds. Once you know everything about yourself, then you go to the industry and you recognize your constraints, you define your needs for collaborating with them, and that results in a fruitful association. So the worth of your idea is determined by 2 things, the felt need and the saleability quotient. The felt need is that it has to be a problem that is realized in clinical practice. The patients are feeling it or the doctors need it. It has to have an impact on patients' life. It could be an essentiality to have a solution to that problem, or it could be a desirability to have a solution to that problem. The saleability quotient is how can you scale your product or your invention in the world? Like what is the size of the problem, the magnitude? The ease of administration or use of your invention. The value addition that your product is doing from the current scenario. The uniqueness or your monopoly, and of course desirability. Dr. Ashish talked about protection of your idea, so I'll briefly touch upon patentability. Every idea that is innovative is not patentable, and if I may say, it is not advisable to patent every idea that even might be patentable. For example, my father 20 years back designed a chopper. It is a small titanium device. Everybody uses it in phacoemulsification. Everybody needs it. necessarily you're going to have a constraint where you are now in losses or incurring debts because of having a passion and a name to a device that you would want to protect. And that in effect is actually decreasing the usability of the device. So there's no point when there is no commercial value to it. So patentability, otherwise, to say the least, you have to have a statutory, a legal idea. It should be novel. It should be non-obvious. It cannot be the simple next logical step. There has to be an inventive component in it. And it has to be useful and practical. You have to prove that it has a workability. Filing for a patent, Dr. Ashish elaborated on it. You must always file a patent in India, always file a patent in India because it is cheap and it protects your idea. It gives you some protection. Then you go for a PCT and then as and when you realize that your idea has potential, you go ahead with filing it in individual territories, which is an expensive job depending on which country you're filing in. One lesson which I learned early on is that non-disclosure agreements without having filed a patent application are practically invitation for the industry to take your ideas and in fact understand them better by you yourself explaining it on paper to them and then stealing it away and marketing it 2 years later in the same conference where you met them. So don't believe in non-disclosure agreements without a patent application. Now coming to building value. Building value starts by materializing the abstract idea, validating it in vitro, then validating it in vivo, and finally clinical application through trials, proving its efficacy, refinement in its administration or its design or whatever, and then the final product. So as you go on from the first step to the last, the value keeps on increasing. Now coming to the worth of your idea. This is a patient who describes his problem of negative dysphotopsia in our clinic, and he was so bothered with his symptoms that we could not just get rid of him. Like any counseling, anything you would do, he would just come back a month later that the problem is not solved. And there was not just one, there's a plethora of such patients. And every moderate volume cataract surgeon faces it. But the problem is that this magnitude was realized by me when I just ran this thought process in my head. When a patient comes to me with a cloudy vision and difficulty to read, I offer him cataract surgery in a blink of an eye. He wants to be free of spectacles. I have trifocal IOLs and I prescribe them left, right and center. Now after the surgery the patient says that I have this black shadow which stops me from seeing on this side and it's extremely nagging. And I tell him that it will go away, it goes away in most of the people. Let's wait and see, it gets better with time. Now it hasn't got any better, he comes back. And in fact, many a times they don't leave. They just say that how can you do this to me? You've done something to my eye which I did not have earlier. So, and then eventually they say, Doctor, agli aankh mein na ho. It will not happen in the other eye. What to do then? There is no way, there was no way where I could say that this is not going to happen in the other eye, don't worry. I'll manage it in the other eye. So an efficacious, safe and easy solution was much needed. I got the idea. I went ahead with an in vitro validation because I was better versed with working on ray tracing models. So I designed a ring that had a central 5 mm clear optic where the central rays could go through to the intraocular lens and focus on the retina unaffected by the ring. The peripheral rays, which were the culprit, the temporal peripheral rays, would undergo refraction through the edges of this ring and distribute in the nasal periphery so that they would illuminate the erstwhile dark shadow of negative dysphotopsia. And also, since the ring would sit on the anterior capsule, it would take care of the capsular excess reflective hypothesis. So, building on this in vitro idea and validation of my ray tracing model, I got the jugaad idea of designing my ring. So I took an IPCL and I punched a 5 mm hole with a disposable see this is the first implant of the ND ring, and to make it free size, for it to fit in the eye, I gave a nick at the edge. So it was slightly difficult to implant, but you can see these holes in the periphery of the IPCL. So this was my first patent application illustration. And then I basically continued building on the idea and finally reached the prototype with the help of industry. Now I'll come back to the role of the industry later, but then adding value to this invention is through, like Dr. Ashish said, presenting yourself at conferences, being present at scientific platforms, because that gives you visibility and that builds credibility on the fact that you are the inventor of this innovation. Patent can protect you as a deterrent. Practically, a patent is not going to help you file a lawsuit and win it against a big giant in the industry, because it is a very, very expensive litigation. So, moving to scientific conferences as early as possible and presenting whatever you are working, your progress is important. We first published our clinical study in the CPRI, and that showed amazing results. Almost all patients were rid of their symptoms. One patient had partial resolution of symptoms, and that was recognition. In working in the industry, you must realize your constraints. So biomedical engineering, prototyping, manufacturing, quality controls and regulatory approvals for an intraocular implant like mine were a big constraint for me, and I did not have the know-how for it. You should define your needs. Now, you should know what you desire in your partner and what is essential in your partner, because there is going to be a compromise always, and you should know where you are not going to compromise, and you should know what best you are hoping for. For a fruitful association, you must always know what your USP is, which is basically your idea and the protection of it. You should know their strengths. You should know what they are bringing to the table, so that you have mutual respect for each other and you reach a fruitful conclusion. So to just give an example while I conclude, this ring could not have become this design if I did not get the help of Care Group India, because they already were working on such shape of an haptic, and I wanted an implant which was pliable and which did not distort its shape on shear. So when they gave me the idea of these loops with these relaxing hinges, which were the thin platforms on the bunny ears, I got the idea to introduce them in the ring also, so that it became more pliable. So eventually we got this, which was a free size device, which did not require any white-to-white measurements. It did not have any adverse effects. It did not rub on the iris. It was a proven material of IPCL. So that helped me catapult my innovation many years. I could not have done this without their technological know-how. So currently, this is how it comes in its fluid bath. This is how you just load it, inject it, dial it in the sulcus in a pseudophakic eye, and be done with it. So working with the industry had the advantages of the speed of the journey, scaling it. Marketing and sales is not something that you are concerned with anymore. But the disadvantage is that you lose control of the process. You have to accommodate them. Corporate machinery has its own delays, and you obviously lose a lot on your possible monetary benefits that you could have accrued if you were doing it all alone. So in summary, if you have an idea that is valuable, then you should build value on that invention. Keep that value protected always. Know your constraints and strengths, and then collaborate with the industry. I hope I was able to help. Sorry for a longer presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. The working with industry is the most fearful thing any innovator thinks of, and many people don't go with the industry just because they think that the idea can be stolen. But as you said, that working with industry can elevate your idea to another level. But there are few passionate people who like to do it themselves. They don't want to partner with industry. Dr. John John Davis Sakara, who is a perpetual innovator. He just keeps on innovating daily, and he wants to do it everything by himself. So over to John, sir. He will tell us how to do it ourselves.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Nilesh. And I would like to acknowledge all the great inventors and innovators in ophthalmology who have been mentoring and encouraging all the youngsters to come out with innovations. So these are some of the great innovators who have been encouraging the newer generations. So we have been talking about patents, we have been talking about protecting your intellectual property, all that, and open source seems to be the opposite of that, but it is not. And also how I learned to do all these things is by learning from others who gave out the information on how they did it. So it is very important to also open source your ideas when it is feasible, when it is the plan you want to take. I'm Dr. John Davis Zakara, and I have a few financial disclosures. I have some apps and devices for which I'm commercializing. So when you go from an idea to an innovation, you have a lot of theory, you have a lot of research, you do all these things, then you go and try to make something, you do engineer it, you prototype it, you try to commercialize it. All that takes a lot of time, effort, money, and that is not free. Sometimes you will have to lose money to do all these things, and you as Ashish Sharma sir rightly said, you have to gain it back. So you are not doing anything wrong by making money from invention. It is absolutely your right. Some things you might want many people to use, so you might price it less, or you might open source it. You might get help from others to do it. So that is what open source is. You get help from others also to do the inventions. So open source, the main thing, if you have been following open source, it is open source software that has been there for a long time, but there is also open source hardware. For example, if you want to make something, you go to thingiverse.com and just search. You get lots of instructional guides on how to make something. And now because 3D printing is easily available, a Raspberry Pi microcomputer is easily available, all the hardware, electronics is easily available, and the information on how to use those things are also there. You can easily sit at home, watch YouTube, and make complex devices. That is how every innovator has to start, and not by going into a lab and doing high-end research. You start at home. So this is open source. And why you should go for open source? Even major companies go for open source, because if it is closed, it is very limited on how much the innovation can go to. It's a very narrow field of view. If you have all the external collaborators, you open up some part of the collaboration, you get people who have their own needs, their own idea on what is useful for them, things which the original innovator may not even have thought about. So that brings up so many beautiful new collaborative inventions and goes to alternative markets, and it opens up the innovation to so many more people. So you have every right to say that necessity is the mother of invention, laziness is often the father. So you find all the lazy people who want to make things easier for themselves, and they will find newer things that can be done with your ideas. So Bill Gates also said this, because lazy people, they are lazy. If they are lazy and smart, they will find a better, easier way to do it. That is how you collaborate. And open source and patenting are not exclusive. They do go together. Many organizations such as Tesla, they have patented and they have open sourced their patents. So, and if you don't know, when you have a patent, it gets published in full detail. So if you have a patent, you have to explain in detail how you have made the device so that other people can see it, but they are not supposed to commercialize it.
And if you want to prevent other people from knowing what it is, you have to keep it an industrial secret, not patented. So you can open source, patent, and that allowed Tesla to have many other competitors who collaborated and developed all the battery packs and everything along the same guidelines. That helped foster the entire community of electric cars. So, and of course vaccines and all that, they should be open source. Nowadays we have the information age and everybody can learn anything from anywhere at any time and anywhere from worldwide experts, and you don't have to pay for it. 90% or 99% of the time you don't have to pay for it. If you have the energy, if you have the inspiration, you can do it. So YouTube can be considered a university as a guru for many people. Lots and lots of information. This is one of the things which I have done recently. There is no audio, I'll just explain. So I was interested in 3D printing. So I wrote an article on 3D printing. I got very interested. I learned how to do CAD by myself. So this is all from YouTube, sitting at home, watching it on mobile phone when I was free. I learned how to do CAD. I do all these CAD designs by myself. And then I happened to be working in a university which had 3D printers, not in the engineering department, but in the dental department. I went there and I was able to 3D print these things, and I got help from the OMFS surgeon there who was also interested in 3D printing. So all this was a very collaborative effort without any formal guidance. So this is how we developed this. And in fact, this design, after we 3D printed the glaucoma drainage device and implanted it, we have uploaded it on Thingiverse. Thingiverse is one place where you can upload 3D printed designs also. You can just download it and print this and use it on your own. I wanted to open source it, not patent it, because of course patenting would take a little money and time and effort. And I wanted people to just use it, download it, and I have my name on it for sure. So that is about open source hardware, one of those things. And then there is open source software. If you have heard of GitHub and other places, I don't have much programming knowledge like computer engineers, but I do have some interest. So I have been following all these things. If you see here, many of these things, bullseye and corneal topography, all this is from other people who have done this and uploaded. I think a few of them are from LV Prasad Institute's Innovation Center. All this has helped me in my innovations because they have open sourced the code of how to do it. And I have made several apps, and all this was done because I was encouraged to do all this from a young age. So at home, when we learned computer science, I learned how to make some games, and when I went to college, I made a period of gestation and LMP calculator app because that was the necessity at the time. One app for all the medications and several other apps which are in ophthalmology after I joined ophthalmology. And of course, we have the MI Red Cam and other fundus, smartphone fundus cameras. So these smartphone fundus cameras inspired me to go for a newer invention. This is because of the giants which are already there. With their help, I was able to see further. And with that, I was able to make the foldable fundoscope. So it was all based on previous knowledge which was shared, and this is how I designed it. Again, after learning CAD, I used 3D printing, designed all these things. This is how I drew it, and this is the final device which came out. So all this was possible because of open sourcing the software, hardware, and information. And I have a patent on this. Right now it would be not open yet, but at some point in the future I might open up this patent for others to use. So that is about open source. And this is really, really useful because you get ideas from many people which combines together to make brilliant, brilliant ideas. Thank you to all the institutions where I learned. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And crux, I think we can take from all these talks is only one thing, that you have to have passion about your idea. You have to love your idea. That is the only thing, because all the talks were on diverse topics, but everyone was loving what they were doing. So I would like to thank everyone in the audience for turning up so early in the morning. Love, sir. Welcome, sir. And we would like to invite any question if anybody has from the audience before we can disperse.
We can take one or two questions if anybody has.
So we will hand over to next because all the speakers are waiting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, innovators, for being on time. We are on time, giving session on time.
Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everybody for being a part.